Hi. So this is my first confession video for CNT 235. This week's topic was gender roles and sexuality. So let's get right to it. One of the first things I observed walking into the building even was kind of the split between the two gender roles. And kind of how they not force but enforce gender stereotypes onto the two groups of children, being boys and girls. Just kind of even the way the building's set up and the colors that they use to determine bathrooms was something I noticed. They use boys blue, girls pink. So, when I walked out into they were doing hackathon, one of the things I noticed was that the boys were hanging out with the boys and the girls were hanging out with the girls. So, something that's very common. And then they broke into, after hackathon, they broke into like small groups, so I got to more closely observe the 5th and the 4th grade students. And they broke down even further because they did something called basketball, which is, I guess, where they take the students into another building and they get to play basketball for that Wednesday session. I did notice that a lot of the participants that left for basketball were boys. And then when they split into, when we were in this kind of 4th and 5th grade situation, I noticed that boys were being more physically active, encouraged almost to be physically active, because the staff would call on them if they kind of stopped moving or if they kind of sat down. But the girls, on the other hand, were allowed to work on their homework if they wanted to. And they weren't the staff allowed them to do that and kind of let them sit by themselves. And then we moved into snack time, and snack time I saw a clear division. And it wasn't even forced by the staff, it was more by the students themselves. The girls went and sat at one table, the boys went and sat at another, which was interesting. I don't know if they were told to do that or if they just did that by themselves. And then they moved from that into something called Power Hour, which they would work on their homework. And in that, a lot of the girls were very independent and working by themselves, where the boys in the group, and it was about an equal split, after they split for basketball, it was close to 50-50. The boys would be more actively asking questions than the girls. I feel a little bit like the girls were kind of not ashamed to ask, but just weren't told to ask. And then they moved into, after Power Hour, they moved into iPad time. iPad time was very enlightening because they started sitting more in more diverse groups, boys and girls. But what they did on the iPads intrigued me. The boys were playing kind of mathematic games with kind of like masculine-esque heroes in them, and the girls were playing kind of dress up, still educational because that was one of the requirements, but it was the difference in the two of them that was intriguing, where the girls would play the kind of gender-enforced games where they had to, make things pretty, and then the boys would do anything that would kind of like beat up the enemy or whatever. And the staff even, throughout this entire thing, would be more focused on keeping the boys in line. It was a lot of if they were doing something rowdy, calming, like trying to get them to calm down, and it was weird because the girls never was a problem with the girls. So that was kind of what I observed in terms of gender. I didn't observe so much in sexuality. There was one girl who semi broke the clothing gender norms, and she was wearing masculine clothing. She was wearing like a tie and a button-up shirt, and the children didn't seem to treat her any differently. So that was what I observed my first week at Boys and Girls Club.